We want to welcome you. We are so excited that you are with us. Wasn't that so awesome to hear Christmas songs? For how many of you is that your first Christmas song of the year? Give me a high five. Woo! I know some of you probably had it on in July, right? Just for fun. Well, I am Sharon and I'm a groupie. I'm going to be your host this afternoon, and we have a whole host of groupies on board that you're going to get to meet throughout our time together. But I want us to get started by doing something fun. We just heard a couple of Christmas songs, and I want you to let us know what your favorite song is. So my friend Julia is going to put our first poll up, and you're going to get to vote on your favorite Christmas carol. So here we go.
They're coming in like rapid fire.
Awesome. While those are coming in, just going to do a couple of housekeeping things here. We are so glad that you're here, and we're glad to see everybody on screen, but we don't want to hear all of the background noise. So if you'll keep yourself muted until we ask you to talk out loud, that would be fantastic, so everybody can hear what's going on. And we, at any time, would welcome your questions into the chat. Tracy and Sarah are going to be managing the chat this afternoon, and we are going to be sending a follow-up email with things that are talked about in the chat, with links and things that you can print out and all that. So don't be stressed out if you see great ideas flying into the chat that you're like, oh, I got to write all that down. You can jot them down, but we also will be following up with an email, so you'll have all that information at your fingertips with downloadables and much more. So we have our poll up here. Looks like Joy to the World is tied with Silent Night, yes? Okay. All right, well, that was a fun thing. I will just mention the song that you heard when you came in is from a resource that you can use in your ministry, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. It is from our Christmas Kidman picks, and it's available as audio, but also as a worship video, and you'll get to see a sneak peek into that in a little bit here. So I want to introduce to you our panel today. We are so excited to have 4 ministry experts with us on board here today, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you, but I'm going to share just a little bit about me as I get to be in kind of both of those categories. I have been serving kids and families for the past 30 years. I am currently on the team at Rock Point Church in Lake Elmo, Minnesota, and I am the preschool pastor there. I get to work with the 2-year-olds through kindergartners, just a sweet spot, but I'm also on the team at Group. And so I get to have my hands in both worlds, which is super exciting. And I'm going to ask Randy if she will introduce herself.
Hello, my people. How are you? My name is Randy Nussbaum, and I am a kids minister in Knoxville, Tennessee. I have been doing paid kids ministry for about 23 years and have a family, 4 kids, a husband who's a school teacher. So I'm excited to get to know some of you and hear some of your questions, and I really dig into how Christmas can work for all of us.
And Emily.
Hello, everybody. I'm Emily Snyder, and I am from Roseville, Michigan, and I have been a children's pastor since 2006 on staff. My husband has been our youth pastor, and just this past year, we became family pastors. So instead of being pulled in 2 different directions, we are working together now, and so excited to just share with you today and come up with some ideas together.
Okay, and let's move over to Charity.
Hey everyone, my name is Charity, and I began working in church ministry in 2008, and I'm originally from Central Pennsylvania. I saw a lot of people from Pennsylvania log on today, so hello. I'm originally from Lewistown, right in the middle of the state, but now I live in Northern Colorado, and I work at Group as a managing editor in our children's ministry department. Right now, I'm guiding the development process of our new Simply Loved curriculum, but I have worked on a lot of different Christmas projects at group. Anytime there's a possible Christmas item, I just want to work on it. So I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation today.
And out to the west, we have Gloria.
Hi, my name is Gloria Lee, and now I'm back in Los Angeles. I was in San Francisco area for a while. So I've been in ministry for 26 years, but I've been at my current church for a year. It's crazy. I was on staff for 4 months before we went on shelter at home. So I've spent more time at home at my new church than I have in the office or seeing people. So it's been crazy times, but I love talking with people that talk about my passion, which is ministry.
Thank you, panels. And we are going to get to know them more throughout our conversation this afternoon. I have a question for each one of you. We're going to have another poll. We want to know, what are your current plans for engaging with families during the Advent and Christmas season? So Julie, you want to pop that poll up for us?
There we go. You should see it on your screen now. Again, coming in so quick. Give it a few more seconds here. You should see the results on your screen now.
Okay, well, looks like a lot of you are unknown at this time. That's probably why you're here this afternoon. And next, we're going to be doing a combination of in-person and online experiences. Well, that is just great to know. We had quite a lot of people join our Zoom meeting and shared all kinds of information. And with everybody that registered, it was probably 50-50 between people who knew what they were going to do or people that really didn't have any idea and were just beginning to explore that. And that has really shaped our time together this afternoon. We are going to be tackling hundreds of struggles that you all shared during registration today. What is that greatest struggle as you're preparing for the Advent and Christmas season? And I'm going to start with a question that was mentioned multiple times and in a variety of ways. And that was, should we even have a program? Should we do something? Is it possible to do something with all the restrictions that we have right now? And I want to say, yes, 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 friends, we need to remember our why. When we go and look at the Great Commission in Matthew 28, it says, go therefore and make disciples. We get to make disciples. We are called and commanded to shepherd kids and their families. And Christmas and Easter are two times that families are really looking towards the church for direction and how to do that. And they're looking for engagement. So even though we're in the midst of a pandemic, our why doesn't change. We are commanded to go. And this Advent and Christmas, whatever we do is part of that disciple-making process. It's going to look different likely than what it's looked like in the past, and that's okay. Now, another question that was asked a lot of times is, you know, I hope there isn't going to be a lockdown. I might have to have a plan A or a plan B. And you know what? We can't control whether or not there's going to be further lockdowns. We can't know what kind of restrictions might be on us when we get to December. It's still just October. A lot can change between now and then. But I highly recommend you and your ministry team to come up with a plan A, a plan B, and maybe even a plan C. Much like we recommended when you were planning for your summer VBS, we know that we need to have a plan. What's going to happen on Sunday mornings or for our midweeks? What are we going to do for our family experience or our pageants? And what's Christmas Eve service going to look like? You just need to get with your team and decide a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, and then come up with a date that you're going to pivot. If the restrictions are this and you can't meet face-to-face, then we're going to go to our plan B and possibly have an online or an at-home experience. And so that's your first thing I want you to jot down is think about what's your plan A, your plan B, and your plan C, and get target dates on a calendar so everybody on your team knows what direction you're going. The most important thing is the why. You are doing something to help families and kids experience Advent and Christmas and all that that means, but keep it simple. So several struggles that were written down were noting you weren't going to be able to do those beloved things. I want you quickly to type into the chat, what is a beloved Christmas tradition at your church? Just type it quick into the chat, and then I'm going to ask Sarah and Tracy to call some of those out. What are those beloved Christmas traditions? What are you seeing in the chat?
Candlelight service, Christmas pageant, live nativity, concert, family meal, hanging of the greens. It's a lot of stuff.
There's lots. You know what, friends? Whatever you are sharing in that chat, I want us to challenge us to not focus on what we can't do, but rather focus on what we can do. Because here's what I know. All of you people who are represented in these boxes today are children's ministry leaders. You are can-do people, much like our VBS directors and VBS leaders. And some of you are one and the same. You are creative people. And so as we move forward today, we're going to focus on what we can do, because what we know is Christmas is going to come again this year. It's just going to look a little differently. We are going to celebrate the birth and the hope of Jesus again. So let's get started with our panelists, where a lot of your pain points were as you filled out our survey today. You had so many questions related to COVID and how that's impacted what you can or can't do during the Advent and Christmas season. What kind of protocols do we need to be following for safety for those of you who might be having face-to-face Advent or Christmas events? Your churches, some of you have churches that are open and have been open for a while, and so you likely are going to be able to have those face-to-face things. But what have you been doing in your ministry now to adhere to our COVID protocols? So I'm going to ask that Randy start first, and I want you to share a little bit about what your ministry journey has looked like and what you've learned, because your church has been open for quite a while. And what have you learned that we can pass on to those of us who are looking to do Advent and Christmas in a face-to-face COVID-friendly environment?
Absolutely. Well, of course, like everybody, we shut down in March, but had the opportunity because of our state to open up actually the 1st of June. So we have been open and fully functioning, especially we actually launched our elementary in June, waited 2 months, launched our preschool, waited 2 months, and just launched our nursery. And we even have Sunday evening programming as well. And so we've been able to really, I would say probably about 80% of our programs have started back, of course, with some serious protocols. One of the advantages of our church is that we had our check-in station in the main foyer. But just to kind of slow things down and to limit our numbers, we moved our kids ministry check-in station to the other side of the building with an easy access point so that parents could literally check in and walk back into the adult areas, totally isolating our kids from anybody coming and going as well. We do temperature checks and sanitize everything all the time. But we really feel like it's a blessing. We have praised our parents again and again and again, because we just keep saying we cannot do this without them following our COVID protocol, which is if your kid feels lousy at all, they just need to stay home. And so we appreciate their teamwork with us. And so when it comes from like our perspective of our Christmas programming, our program is going to look very similar, just a lot of limited numbers in certain spaces, hand sanitizers, face masks, gloves, things that a year ago I would have, like my jaw would have dropped, but now has been very, very normal for us. So.
Thanks, Randy. How about you, Emily? What's it looking like in Michigan?
So in Michigan, it's really dependent on the church. There are some churches in Michigan who aren't meeting. We have been very similar to what Randy's done. We went with a phased approach. So our church opened, our first phase was in June, and that was just meeting for services, no children's ministry. On Wednesday nights, we decided to go with our midweek service because it was smaller numbers, a little bit easier to manage than Sunday mornings. So then our second phase was adding children's ministry to Wednesday nights. Third phase was adding Sunday mornings, and so on. So we are currently in phase 4, which means we are completely back to children's ministry on Sundays and Wednesdays, full children's ministry. But our services are shortened. Of course, doing the hand sanitizer, masks. We're also doing reservations. So our people have to register online through Eventbrite every week for our services so that we can space the chairs appropriately for them, which has actually been really helpful in children's ministry, because then I can shoot a text to my volunteers and say, hey, you have this many kids in class this week, and they can get the rooms, the rooms ready for them. So, but one of the biggest things, one of the most important things that I've found through this with COVID and just sickness in general is making sure you have a thorough sick policy, and that it is communicated and posted and enforced. That is a huge thing. And to not apologize, do it in love, lovingly. This is our sick policy, but enforce it and don't apologize for that, because you're keeping kids healthy, you're keeping your volunteers healthy. And so I saw that, I saw the importance of it when a couple weeks ago, I had a teacher who said, hey, I have a little bit of a runny nose, but I'm still fine to teach tonight, if that's all right with you. And I said, nope, stay home tonight. We've got you covered. And 2 days later, she went in and tested positive for COVID, and ended up in the hospital the next week. She's fine now, but what started with just a runny nose could have spread through our entire church. So have the sick policy, stick to it. That's my biggest.
Awesome. And knowing that, I know a lot of churches have December as their reopen date because it is the Christmas season. And so as you're heading into that, that is great advice. Charity, what can you add to that?
Yeah, so the church that I currently attend, they have moved kind of in the middle of things. So we're doing house gatherings now. Instead of meeting together in one big place as a congregation, we're kind of sprinkled all over town in house gatherings. As far as children's ministry goes, our children's ministry team is creating video content to share with kids and families each week. And they're also doing some really fun and clever activities or things on social media like Instagram of carving pumpkins and having families show pictures of their pumpkins together so that there is that feeling of community, even as we're separated in different spaces.
All right, Gloria.
So being in a place where real estate is ridiculous, we are a mobile campus. Both of our campuses are mobile sites. So we're also at the mercy, not only of our county, but also the schools and the churches that we rent from. And one church said, you can only have 25 people. And we're like, oh, that's not gonna work. And the schools that were just completely shut down. So we kind of didn't have a choice, but we were just able to secure an amphitheater that seats 3,000 people. So we can completely social distance. And when we did a survey with our families and our congregants, like 80% said they would only come back if it's outdoors. So we are actually opening this coming Sunday only for adults, but we don't have a safe place for kids and youth. So we went ahead and said we won't be doing in person for kids and youth at least till January. So we'll see. But yeah, so we're still doing everything at home. Everything's still online.
Thank you. Well, something that we do know is that for those churches who are open and have been able to welcome kids and families back, our attendance is not the same as it was pre-COVID. There was a study that came out this week that said attendance right now in churches that are having in-person activities is at 36% of what it was prior to COVID. So if you are one of those churches there, give us a physical raise of the hand if that sounds familiar. I know it is at my church, so we can relate to that. And
doesn't have a fax number.
One question that was asked by several people is, how can we reassure our families that it is safe to come back into these December Advent and Christmas experiences that we want to have, and to help them know that we are taking the necessary precautions to create an environment that's not only welcoming, but that can put aside some of the COVID fear that they might be feeling that right now. So let's go back to Randy.
So one of the things that we've done is we've polled our parents, we've survey monkeyed our parents 1,000 times just to kind of figure out where they are. But really, we're kind of feeding off what we've had the most success with, which has been our outdoor events. Our trunk or treat, we had an outdoor prayer station, just exploded in numbers. So we know that our people will respond well when the things that are outside are well received. So for our Christmas event, we're actually doing the Miracle of Jesus, which we're super excited about. We've done this before, and we're really excited about it. But rather than just having it in our kids ministry areas, we're actually stretching it out through the whole entire church, including having some stations outside, even adding a petting zoo to draw people outside to participate in that way. And so we're really feeding on what we have had a positive response on from our parents.
That's awesome. You know, if you're not familiar with Miracle of Jesus, just a little bit about that. Megan can put up a slide about that. It is a family event that comes with a kit. And we have heard that lots of you are trying to figure out a COVID-friendly event. So we have created COVID-friendly adaptations for the Miracle of Jesus, and also A Night in Bethlehem, which is another seasonal event kit. And literally the sky is the limit with these. You could have them be indoors, outdoors. You can do on-site adaptations. You could have it be where you're doing some of the content and a live streaming. We've got permissions for that. Or you could even create take-home packs and have families do this together at home. So in the chat, you can see links to those things now. And there is a way to download those COVID-friendly adaptations. Once you have your kit for that, then the adaptations will make sense. And so you'll get more information on that. Something else that I want to share about the Miracle of Jesus is that there is a great, in kind of what I call the Bible teaching station of it, where they're getting the Christmas message, if you will. There is a great video of the shepherds. Now, here's an out-of-the-box idea. If you did an at-home piece where you sent home the craft kits and those at-home experiences home, you could use the shepherd video, and there's 2 worship songs that go with it that have on-screen lyrics and actions, and use that as part of a Christmas lesson. It could be part of your Christmas Eve service. It could be part of your Sunday morning experience. So Megan, could we just share that video of the shepherd story?
Sure. Maybe. There we go.
Right Where We Belong by the Shepherds.
We're just shepherds. We're poor, dirty, kind of smelly. We're really not all that special. But one night, one spectacular night, we got to see the most amazing thing that ever happened. An angel appeared out of nowhere, right in front of us. We were terrified.
Don't be afraid,
the angel said.
I have some good news for you, and it's going to make a lot of people very happy.
The angel told us a very special baby had been born in Bethlehem, the town just down the hill. It was Jesus, the Messiah himself, the Lord. The angel even told us where to find him. We looked at each other with our mouths hanging wide open. Let's go to Bethlehem, we all said at the same time. We raced down a hill as fast as we could. Thankfully, we found the tiny baby right away, just like the angel said we would. He was so cute, wrapped up tight in a blanket and lying in a feeding bin full of hay. Then we praised God just like the angels had done. When we left, our hearts were bursting with joy. Jesus' birth meant good news. No, great news. We told everyone we met about this new gift God had given the world. God could have chosen anyone in the world to be the first to hear the good news of Jesus. But he chose us. God chose us. I guess we're not really nobodies after all. The truth is, no nobody is a nobody. God loves all of us. That's why God sent this special baby into the world. Jesus was a gift to every man, woman, and child, the most precious gift God has ever given. Have you ever felt like a nobody? If you have, remember Jesus was born for you, and Jesus wants to be friends with you. In fact, you can talk to Jesus right now. Just pray, and he will hear you. He was born to love you.
Isn't that awesome? So again, lots of flexibility when you're thinking out of the box. And I did see in the chat, people were wondering if that is a standalone video. That is part of the Night in Bethlehem kit, and it comes in as a DVD, but also in the digital download center when you purchase that. I want to hear from Emily. We heard a little bit from Randy what she's doing at her church. Emily, what are you doing at your church specifically, whether it's a family event, or how are you handling the Christmas season in your ministry?
So because we are meeting in person, we are going to be having a party for our kids the Wednesday before Christmas. But it will look different, obviously, from years past, making sure that kids are in smaller groups and not so much movement, staying in kind of one place. So there will be some adaptations to that. But for our families, we typically have a candlelight service, which I saw a lot in the chat, a lot of people saying that that's something that their church does. And so one thing we're doing to change this year, we don't want to get rid of our candlelight service. It's such a, that's Christmas. But there's no way to get everyone in our sanctuary for a nighttime service. And so we are going to still do the candlelight portion, but it will be at our Sunday morning services for those who are in attendance. And so it will also be live streamed. So it'll be a little different, but we're, trying to make it work.
Awesome. And I'm going to pop over to Gloria. What are you going to be doing in California at your church environment?
Yeah, so our VBS ended up being such a huge hit that we decided to kind of play off of that. And we actually decided after VBS that we're going to do like a seasonal kit that we're sending home every quarter. So obviously December, it's going to be Christmas. So we're actually putting together an Advent kit that we'll have available for families. And what's been really cool about this, which I never expected, I finally feel like I am partnering with parents, and that's always been my dream. And parents know exactly what the kids are doing. And I made them not into like stuff just for kids, but I just made it into things for families to do together. So that's what we're doing.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So that's just a little entree into things you can do as events and what these three ministries are doing for the Christmas season. But we have a lot of questions that came in that are related to content, curriculum, and resource ideas for your Sunday morning or midweek experience. People are wondering what's available. Are there Christmas specific resources out there? How can we adapt them? Are there things that I can do online, in person? I have to do online and in person, and everything in between. And so Charity, I'm going to call on you to share about some resource possibilities that can help come alongside people who are looking for those things.
Sure. Well, I remember when I was leading a children's ministry, I really was strategic in trying to connect what the kids were experiencing during the weekend with what our family celebrations looked like too. And so specifically with our Simply Loved curriculum, we developed a holiday pack. Now, Simply Loved, it's an undated curriculum, so you can begin it whenever you'd like to, and there are 8 different quarters. And so we created this pack so that you could plug in the lessons whenever it worked for you, keeping your church traditions and celebrations in mind. So as we were creating these lessons, we created 2 Christmas lessons, kind of thinking the Sunday before Christmas, then the Sunday after Christmas. And then there are 2 Easter lessons too. And that was strategic as well to kind of help kids connect the dots between the story of Christmas and the story of Easter. So when we were developing Simply Loved, we had no idea what this year would look like. But time and time again, I'm so encouraged to discover how the simplicity and flexibility and focus on relationships is so important now more than ever. And those three things are woven into each and every part of Simply Loved. So we wrote these lessons before COVID hit. But we've been re-looking at those lessons with fresh eyes. And maybe you're doing that too with the curriculum that you purchased. How can I use this in the current situation to continue to serve my kids and families? So as we looked at Simply Loved, we came up with 4 simple strategies that could be helpful to you as you consider how to use this curriculum in your church this year. Now, this applies to if you're already using Simply Loved, or if you've heard about it and you're curious what it's like. The holidays could be a perfect time to give it a try because it's kind of special programming anyway. So we created adaptation videos and documents to help you think through how you could take a Simply Loved lesson for pre-K and K or elementary and turn it into a video lesson that you could record ahead of time and send to families to view either on the weekends or at their convenience. We also thought through what a Zoom Sunday school situation would look like for Simply Loved, and we provided those video tips for you. We also looked at the lessons and thought, now, if I had 10 kids in a room and I needed to keep them at a physical distance from each other, what would I tweak in this lesson to keep their health and their safety in mind? And we developed a video and document tips for that too, so that if your church is gathering in person for Christmas, there are some just simple tweaks that you can make to these already simple lessons to really help it be effective for the kids in your ministry. Now, I've been hearing a lot about family worship experiences. If we can't get all the kids together, but the families are already a household, and so what if we had families gather and sit at a table together in our church? We give them the supplies that they need. We show the video that's a part of the curriculum. With Simply Love, that's Bible Memory Buddy videos, and create a neat gathering that still is mindful of health and safety, but equips parents to participate too. You could do that with a Simply Loved lesson. Or there are just some simple activities in our opening options that you could share with families at home. So just trying to rethink and be creative, looking at a traditional lesson and how could it work right now in a meaningful way. The other curriculum I'll mention is our Be Bold preteen curriculum. Now, I don't know about you and the preteens that you know, but sometimes when you start the Christmas story with preteen kids and they've heard it time after time after time, you get a little bit of like a eye roll, I know this story. Well, Be Bold has a holiday pack too, and it features 4 unique Christmas lessons. So it could last you the whole month of December. We found that Be Bold is a discussion-based curriculum. It really thrives around talking with preteens. And so Zoom is actually a really great place to lead a Be Bold lesson because you can pose the question and engage with kids over the screen as you are engaging in a lot of other fun activities too. Or if you're in person with kids, the Be Bold student book and some of the other resources are individualized so that those supplies that they need, you can kind of individualize per student and do in a safe and fun way too. Last thing I'll mention curriculum-wise is our, Sharon actually mentioned them at the beginning, our Christmas Kidman quick picks, say that 10 times fast. They're called Songs of the Christmas Story and More Songs of the Christmas Story. And that's where the music that we heard as we gathered came from. We wanted to tell the story of Christmas through Christmas carols for kids. And so those resources are available with additional permissions that you can use to share, whether it's in a video setting or just sharing with families in a variety of different ways.
And Charity, we have a sneak peek of some of those Christmas videos.
Great.
Share that, Megan?
The herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. What child is this who laid to rest? Oh, little town of Bethlehem. Oh, tell it on the mountain.
Thank you. Well, many of you have great ideas out there. And so I want you right now to type into the chat your best Advent and Christmas idea that you want everybody who's with us here this afternoon to learn about, and we'll be able to share that out. So again, don't feel like you have to read all 200 ideas right now. Just type it into the chat, and it could be something that is for Sunday morning. It could be something that's going to be for a family event or an at-home experience. So go ahead and do that now. Lots of ideas are coming in there. We're going to be breaking up into some Zoom rooms in just a minute, but I want to share a creative idea that we're doing at my church. Many of you said, how can we do that beloved Christmas pageant, Christmas choir type of experience if we can't gather? And our church has tackled that, and we've decided, again, we are can-do people. We are going to have our kids be a part of singing, but we're going to modify it a little bit this year. Instead of doing 3 songs and having our kids parade into big church and everyone sees all those cute little dresses and little sweaters and all that fun stuff, we are actually using one of the worship videos from the Christmas songs that you just saw, and we are having our families videotape their kids singing it at home in their Christmas getup, whatever they want to wear, as if they were at church. And then our media team is going to put together a montage of all of the families singing that one song for our service. That's the second Sunday in December. So will it look differently? Yes, it will. But what a great thing to have one of those worship videos. And we're going to intersperse, some of the actual actions of the songs with Angels We've Heard on High. It's going to be different, but it's going to be awesome. And you know what? Kids are probably going to remember when we did that video and we were on the big screen in church instead of just standing up there in front of everybody. So think out of the box. Now, we know that you have great ideas, and we want to be able to break this down and do some networking in smaller groups. So Julia is going to put us into a Zoom room for a few minutes, and we have a few things that we're going to be working on and discussing and getting more ideas there. So in a minute, you're going to get an invitation on screen, and we just ask that you accept it. And we've got a bunch of groupies with us here, and they will be facilitating our Zoom rooms, and then we'll be coming back together again for the last part of our time together. So Julia, are we ready to Zoom?
Yes, everyone should see a notification pop up on your screen now. So if you want to accept that, and it'll just do all the work for you.
Isn't that amazing how you can Zoom away and then you can come right back? It's one of my favorite features of Zoom. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so our panelists back with us. We have a few more things that we are going to go through. Hopefully you got to meet a couple of friends in ministry. You got to be in a smaller group and learn some names and get connected with some other ministry ideas. And we want to, in the chat, we're going to put a link. If you are willing to get followed up from somebody else about that great ministry idea that you shared earlier, put your name and the information in the chat, and then we will share out all of that information among this group here. So you can have all these great ideas in a Google form. So Tracy's going to put that into the chat, or Sarah right now. Coming up there, so you can put your ideas in. And while you're doing on that, I know you can multitask. We have a couple of really important questions that you all asked that I want to make sure that our panelists get a chance to engage with. And one of them is this: a lot of you are creating dual content. You're creating content for your in-person people, and you're also creating content for your at-home or online people. And it's honestly some of the words that I saw in our survey where it's exhausting, it's overwhelming, and it's difficult to juggle. And so do our panelists have some suggestions for creating quality ministry for online and in-person each week? Because the interesting thing is every week Sunday comes again, right? Sunday comes or Wednesday comes, and we still have that over us. And so I would like to go back to Gloria for a second, because she's been doing this for many weeks now, since March, and is still doing it, and will still be doing it through at least January.
Yeah, so one thing that we decided, so this is kind of crazy. When we went into lockdown, we were in the midst of massive transition in our church. We had just lost our senior pastor. We were actually trying to kind of clean house afterwards. So I was left with one other staff member instead of 4. So we decided, you know what, for sanity's sake, we can't do it all. And when we asked the parents, they said, for sanity's sake, we can't do it all the stuff that you're sending us. So we decided from the beginning, we're going to make this as simple as possible for us. And I made it very clear to the parents, I don't want to be a burden on you. I want to be a partner. So we do Zoom breakouts, we do online lessons, and we also send home like a lesson that parents can do. But I tell them, you don't have to do them all. If all you can do is just watch the video with your kids for 15 minutes, great. If you can join us for Zoom with kids, because we actually go over the same lesson, but we actually do activities, great. If you're running out of ideas and you need more things to do with your kids midweek, there's these additional activities that we've given you. So we've given them a bunch of stuff, but we just made it clear you don't have to do it all. And we've told ourselves we don't have to do it all. And our video editing guy really mainly works with the adult ministry. So it was up to me to create content. So I kind of sat down, I realized when I opened iMovie back in March, last time I'd opened it was 2016. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get real acquainted with iMovie. And I figured out what I could do. We don't do in-person lessons every week. We only do it once in a while. And we actually use videos that are provided. And it's a lot of, every week as I edit, it's a lot of just plugging in so that I got it down to science now where I can do each week's lesson in an hour for both preschool and elementary. So we decided, let's just figure out what we can do and do that. Let's not try to do what everyone else is doing. Yeah, and whatever we can do, let's just do that well.
I love that as a motto. We are can-do people, right? Absolutely. So another question that came in, again, multiple times, but kind of boiled it down to this. Parents are not wanting to bring kids back to in-person environments when we are already open. And then there are parents who are not helping their kids get online to the online opportunities that we're providing. So I want to throw that out to our panelists. What can we do to help those parents that aren't ready to come back in person, and we have in person, and then we're also providing the online? But that's the thing in kids ministry, is they need an adult person in their life to help them access that online or open up that packet that we might be sending. And so let's go back to Emily with that.
I think the most important thing you can do, which you did at the beginning of this webinar, is share our why. Why we do what we do, why children's ministry is vital, why it's important to gather as the church and not be isolated. But the best way to do that is for people to hear your heart, to hear your passion. And that's not communicated well in an email or a newsletter. And so I encourage you to do like a Facebook video, a Facebook Live video, or a video that can be sent out. Even, make some personal phone calls or have your staff make some personal phone calls, but so people can hear your voice and the passion in your voice when you're sharing, why we do what we do.
What would you add to that, Randy?
I would add, I love the fact that our church communicates and functions as a whole church. So when we started having trouble with parents really participating, we enlisted the help of our senior minister and just said, what can you do? How can you encourage this, whether it's in person or phone calls or online or messaging or however, just to re-emphasize the importance of kids ministry.
You know, and one thing that I would add too that we've been experiencing at my own church is we have to over communicate. And the other thing is surprise them. We have had so much fun sending things into people's homes, envelopes that have kids' names on it with something for them to do. If the kids can read their name or they can figure that out, they can rip open the envelope or whatever it is we're sending to them. And that is a way to get their parents, when they see their kid's face light up with that Bible buddy thing or whatever it is we're putting in there, it's kind of hard to shut that down. And so energy is contagious once we can find a way to get in. And my message would be, don't give up on the relationship. Jesus isn't giving up on us, so we're not going to give up on those kids. Those relationships are important, and we've been called, remember Matthew 28, we've been called to go therefore and make disciples. And it's a time and time again. And people are weary of the pandemic and fatigue and all that. And we in children's ministry can get weary too, but we need to press on and find ways to refuel ourselves, bring more people in with us so we can keep going, because there's a lot at stake. The gospel is at stake, and that's important. Kids know loving and serving Jesus is a big deal. And so that's why we keep going on. We talked a little bit, I've got two more things we're going to fit in before we go for the day here. We talked a little bit about ideas, and there's that little idea thing, the Google document. We want to bless you with a quick instant Advent idea in the chat. And this is a free experience. If you didn't get it on earlier, that you can download. It'll also come up in the follow-up email. But one real concern that you've shared is budgets. We know that the pandemic has drastically cut budgets. Some of you no longer have a budget. Some of you never had a budget. And I want to ask our panel, I'm going to go out to Charity first. What are some go-to places for resources if you literally don't have a budget to do it? What would you say?
I think that childrensministry.com has a lot of great ideas that you can search and kind of navigate through, and those are all free. I also encourage you to look at your curriculum. A good curriculum already has ideas in it that you can reimagine and repurpose in different ways. And then you have this synergy that's happening as kids are engaging, in their Sunday school classes and your family ministry. The other thing I wanted to mention, just from the last question, if I can, Sharon, the relationship component is so important. And don't underestimate the relationships that you had with parents and families before COVID started. As a shepherd for children's ministry, you are the person that they look up to. And maybe you have a larger church and your volunteers function in that role too. I was amazed when we did the Empowering Courageous Kids videos at group, and I was leading lessons. Families from my church in Pennsylvania and my church in Colorado Springs and my church in Maryland were emailing me saying it was so good to see me again. And so those relationships are what can really make a difference. And as you connect with families who are zoomed out, just to be encouraged that what you're doing makes a difference. And even if it doesn't cost any money, a text, a handwritten card sent in the mail, whatever it is can send that joy that somebody in our group mentioned, joy that's so much needed right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know, before you go, the last thing we're going to talk just really quick on is volunteers. Volunteers are essential in children's ministry. And you might be thinking right now, well, we're not open, so we're not using our volunteers. But you know what? During the Christmas season, it is such an appropriate time to appreciate our volunteers. And I would like, if you've got a great idea, to type into the chat, what is one way that you could appreciate your volunteers? Because even if they haven't been serving during COVID, it is so important for them to know that you care about them, that they're part of the team. It's not their choice that they're not there because of COVID. That's none of our choice. Or maybe they have some kind of COVID situation that puts them at risk and they can't serve on our team right now. But it's really important for them to know that they are a valued part of our ministry. And again, that goes back to the relationships that we have with our volunteers. So if you've got a quick idea on how to appreciate volunteers, type that into the chat, and we again will get that out to everybody so we have lots of ideas. And also on childrensministry.com, there are great volunteer appreciation ideas out there as well. I mean, there's just so many things, and you can search by topic. So lots of ideas I see are coming into the chat here. That's fantastic. Well, we are going to end our time, and I'm going to ask Joni to pray for us. Joni is our Chief Creative Officer and our biggest cheerleader for children's ministry, because she was one of us and is one of us and has that heart. So Joni, will you pray for us?
I would be happy to, and I just want to cheer on everybody here. It is just a blessing to see each person and your smiling faces, and just knowing how important you are to the kids and families that you're reaching. So yay to you. So let's pray. God, we give you thanks for each person here. And right now we celebrate the gift of you coming to us as a baby, and how we can bring that message to our kids and families. And Lord, help us see how now we can be Jesus to the people around us. You've placed us each around the world in a special place to reach just the people that you want us to reach. So God, give us a gigantic dose of your love and patience and strength, and all this love that you can give us, that we can pass it on. So Lord, we thank you for this time together, and pray for all the families that each person represents here, that you are already doing an amazing work in them. So we thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well, it has been great to be here. An hour has flown by. I feel like we could have talked for 3 days here, but we want you to know that you are bright spots for so many people, and we want to thank you for joining us. And we are going to be praying for you that you will just create a hope-filled environment for this Christmas season, and that the kids and the families that you serve will be hugely impacted. And so we'll send you out with joy to the world, because it is joy that we get to share the story of Jesus with kids. So thanks for being with us today, friends.